Springfield's Talk 1041. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday. My name is Nick Reed, broadcasting live this fine morning. We do have video operations up once again. You can find us over on YouTube, Springfield's Talk 1041, which means, of course, Sarah's back.
Yay, here I am.
You were just people that wondered. You just kind of took a little vacation, a
Yes.
little mini vacation.
Yep, I went to
4 or 5 days away.
Yep, Gulf of America.
Gulf of America.
Yes, it's very beautiful,
Well,
very patriotic
good.
down there.
Yes, I'm glad. Just the waves were just a little more America.
Yep.
So that's wonderful. Was the weather nice?
Yeah,
for
it
you
was
down
really,
there?
really nice. Yeah, it was in the
Good.
80s down there, and
Nice.
yeah, it was kind of like anytime you go down to the Gulf, it rained like a little bit here and there, but
Sure.
cleared up. So yeah, it was really
Right.
nice.
Well, that's just wonderful.
Well,
and then
thank
you
you.
come your first day back. We've got lunch bunch.
You're right.
So
Ooh,
how exciting
I
is
did
that?
myself a favor
Yeah,
there,
you
didn't
did.
I?
You timed that out very nicely.
Mhm.
Now our lunch bunch at Retro Metro, great place to have lunch. It's a level up place, I like to call it. You know, you got your regular lunch places, but then you have your, this is really nice places. And that's what you get with Retro Metro. Dinner, of course, as well, but having that level for lunch, whether it's meetings or, just meeting some friends. Maybe you're going to have a drink or two in the afternoon or just a nice lunch. And they really do have a number of menu items focused on everything from, heart healthy to, they have the Alpha Gal stuff also.
Yes.
They've got pretty much anything that you have any sort of restrictions regarding. It's not like some restaurants where they just take a regular meal and just don't put salt in it. Look, this is heart healthy. They really put a great focus on crafting menu items for everyone. And if you want to go to lunch with us, just go to KSGF.com. Get signed up for the Retro Metro Lunch Bunch. And then if your name's chosen, you'll join Sarah and me on a Wednesday for lunch. And you get to bring up to five people with you if you would like. All right. So, it's just the ever-evolving situation between Israel and Iran, and Iran rather has indicated that that sort of the U.S. is potentially now fair game in this. Increasingly they are defanged by the Israelis, and so every day that passes, one, I think, fairly asks, what are they even capable of doing? Now, obviously, some damage. They continue to launch missiles into Israel. The latest rounds, it doesn't appear as if anyone was killed or potentially even injured with the latest rounds of missile launches. As increasingly, the Israelis have, just done a pretty successful job again of defanging the Iranians. Though there's still this declaration a couple days ago. Israel's like, just wait, Thursday night into Friday, game changer stuff. Going to be a lot of surprises, like some sort of unveiling that will make the beeper operation seem simplistic. And that with Trump increasingly just being like, hey, what's got to happen's got to happen. The whole ceasefire thing is pretty much out of the cards at this point. This is Israel's game, and it is game on until there is no possibility of nuclear weapon development. And that's a recap. I know you all have been keeping up with what's been going on. It has dominated the news. There's this massive concern about America getting drawn into it, and I keep seeing people have no appetite for troops on the ground. And I'm like, no one's talking about that. I think some of that is to try and just instill fear into people. Much of it driven to turn people against Donald Trump. But I'm not saying that, listen, anything's possible. And, Trump gets asked these questions. Well, would we go to, and he's like, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm not going to say one way or another, nor should he. You should never give your enemy an idea of, oh, by the way, but we'll never do this to you. You just don't want to do that. You want them to recognize or believe that absolutely all cards are on the table. And this desire, I get it on one hand when you are talking about being involved in some capacity, as we are, well, what happens if this occurs? What happens if that occurs? And what's worst case scenario? Would we do this and would we do that? But I also think that it's reasonable to recognize that you just don't want to tell your enemies, well, this is as far as we'll go, because it allows them to gauge and plan. Oh, okay, well, now we know the furthest that they will go, or that they will absolutely not be involved, and so we can take that equation off the table. We don't have to worry about that in terms of planning, and so that's why it's wise to take that particular position. I do find it somewhat interesting at the same time that you just juxtapose this stuff. There are a lot of people that already feel that we're doing too much just by not doing enough. There's a bit of irony there. Trump saying, "Hey, we're out of this thing." I think it's supposed to be an insult to Trump by saying, "Well, it's clear Benjamin Netanyahu's now telling Trump or running the show." I'm sorry, is this not Israel's battle? I mean, that doesn't mean that we can't have sway, that we can't help. This was an argument that was made by the Democrat rep on the 5, Jessica Tarlov, that, well, it's clear at this point that Trump is just letting Netanyahu call all the shots. Well, this is Israel's deal. I mean, is this not what we wanted? Of course, it also runs counter to the whole narrative that Trump is a dictator and he does what he wants and he is an isolationist, and so it's just with the left, everything is a complete and total contradiction. But some of the same people, and the situations are somewhat different, but some of the same people who believe that we should just give an absolute nonstop blank check to Zelensky, give him any weapons that he wants, despite the fact that there is that nuclear weapon thing hovering out there, with Putin, but have reservations about us being as involved as we are by potentially offering up this bunker buster bomb. Some of this stuff I just try to look at from a common sense approach. This is the big question, right? This is the big one. Well, now, I mean, if we let them use that, then that's going to be a level of involvement we should not be involved. Well, we're at that level of involvement in Ukraine and Russia. We've been providing Ukraine with massive amounts of military assets they never had, that have allowed them to make their way, and not just us, but NATO as well, NATO countries, to make their way further into Russia than they otherwise would have been able to. I mean, this idea, when you look at, listen, I'm not arguing for or against. It's just the contradictions here that, particularly with the media, and the media just acts as if that is the big red line, that if Trump allows Israel to use a bunker buster, which seemingly at this point is really considered either the only realistic or the most effective way to finish off their nuclear ambitions, that if we allow them to use that, if we give that to them, then Trump has gotten us involved in a war, and that we might as well be, we're in it. Well, how come we don't take that position when it comes to Ukraine? Why was Biden not accused of getting us, quote, into a war with Russia when he was hand over fist giving Zelensky anything he wanted, whether it was cash or weapons? It's just that different approach that we take in terms of how we gauge things. And like I said, that doesn't mean that what we do in one scenario has to be the exact same, because different scenarios are going to require oftentimes different approaches. But just that recognition of what defines getting us involved, what defines, oh, we're in it now, versus, oh, no, we're just helping them from the sidelines. And I think that probably for a lot of us, we recognize, well, the difference is Biden was awesome and wonderful, and he was standing up for democracy and freedom, but Trump is going to start World War III. And so that's the difference. It's the president, which is unfortunate because then you're not really having a true, honest, intellectual debate about the issue. Now, most of you do. We're just talking about the framing of this that we hear in the media so often. All right. There's a lot of other stuff today as well, and we have weather in just a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see scattered showers in the morning and then mostly cloudy with a high near 82. Tonight, a slight chance for showers throughout the night with a low around 66. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 86. And looking ahead to Friday, sunny skies with a high near 91.
More good news for the average working American. Blue-collar workers have seen real wage growth of almost 2% in the first 5 months of President Donald Trump's second term. This is the largest increase for any administration in nearly 60 years. I'm sure it's all just left over from the Biden administration, see. This is one of the things that you learn over time if you pay attention. whenever things go positive because of policy or expectation of policy changes during a Republican presidency, well, that's just leftovers. See, that it just takes a while for the policies of the Democrat to catch up. But when the economy is going poorly, and you heard this, the entire Biden administration, after trying to lie about inflation, well, we were handed the worst economy ever since mankind started. And it was the same thing during the Obama years when there was the most anemic economic recovery that we had ever experienced in this country. The excuses were always the same. Well, there were a couple of different excuses. Some that the manufacturing jobs can never come back, which of course Trump proved that to be incorrect. But it was also, well, you got to understand, we were handed the worst economy ever. We just, there's nothing we can do about it. So this is just the way it is. And so this news, which is fantastic, is, I'm sure, if Democrats are at any point going to address it, we'll be told that this is all because of the Build Back Better and the Inflation Reduction Act, and because of the economic policies of Joe Biden. They were just so wise and so strong that despite Trump and his damaging policies, still this amazing growth took place for blue-collar workers. That's how amazing Joe Biden was. That's how amazing Joe Biden is. The 1.7% pay bump is in stark contrast to negative growth under Joe Biden, according to new data from the U.S. Department of the Treasury. Since Richard Nixon in 1969, Trump has been the only president to record positive growth for blue-collar workers in his first 5 months. He also achieved 1.3% in his first term. The recovery from a 1.7% decline recorded in Biden's first 5 months as inflation outpaced earnings suggests a shift in economic conditions for this financially stressed segment of the workforce. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said, quote, "The only other time that it was this high was during President Trump's first term. We've seen real wages for hourly workers, not supervisory workers, rise almost 2% in the first 5 months. No president has done that before. Falling inflation has driven the significant improvement in blue-collar wages, lifting workers' take-home pay and living standards." And they noted that wage growth is also being fueled by the president's emphasis on manufacturing. And this is where the massive relief comes in. Not only is the inflation now under control under President Trump, but with the increase in wages, this is where the spending power starts to come back. And, of course, it's going to take time. The amount of damage that was done, it's a lot easier to wreck an economy than it is to get an economy to recover. Anything's that way. So, if you ever remodeled a kitchen, taking a sledgehammer to everything, that portion, the breakdown, and that destruction takes a fraction of the time to rebuild things back successfully. And the economy's the same way. And the fact that we're already seeing it is definitely a good sign. And obviously for Trump and his agenda, but the real kicker is this is just a good sign for working Americans. And these results are part of the reason we've seen a massive shift of working class people away from the Democrat Party to the Republican Party. And this is why even Democrats have finally begun to acknowledge, because they have no choice, that the Democrat Party is no longer the party of the working man. It is the party of the rich elite. And the working man's party has become, or the Republican Party has become the working man's party. And it's not just rhetorical, it's in the numbers. This is what really kills the Democrat Party. They run around talking about the way things should be or the way they want things to be. But people, many people, not everyone, but many people have gotten to the point that they really just care about what actually happens. What are the results? What's real? Not the rhetoric, but what's real. You can have all of your charts. You can have all of your excuses. You can have all of your experts telling me that, oh, no, the economy's this or the economy's that, but I know what's actually happening. And this is where increasingly the Democrat Party has lost this support. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Ozarks Elder Law, they are there because no planning at all is the worst planning ever. You think, well, my family, everything's just going to get passed down. I don't need to worry about it. Well, government's going to step in. Government's always going to be there to, quote, help you in your family's time of mourning to make sure they know who's actually in charge. You don't want to leave that behind. It's not a very good gift. Or maybe you think, well, I downloaded a will like 15 years ago, and I had a notary. My neighbor was a notary, and they said, just man, forget about that. I'm telling you, looking at nightmare scenarios. So what do? Ozarks Elder Law. Reach out, get in contact, set up an appointment. There's 10 locations throughout the area, and consultation is going to cost you nothing. And part of that will be, here's what you need to do. You'll lay out, here's our situation, and like, okay, have you done this, and yes, no, yes. And if you have any, oh, well, I came up with a will from online, here it is. I'll look that over and say, okay, here's what you need to do in order to make sure that you don't leave behind a nightmare scenario for your family, and here's what the one-time cost is going to be. It isn't, well, now we're going to start on this, and we're $100 an hour, none of that stuff. They don't nickel and dime you. Ozarks Elder Law, fantastic folks. Find out all their locations, how to get started as well by going to ozarkselderlaw.com, or you can go to ksgf.com, Nick's endorsements. Text message coming in saying, I don't know if either of you are Food Network fans, but a moment of silence to Ann Burrell, who just passed away suddenly. I don't really watch the Food Network. I did know about this passing. This is obviously an individual that is very well known because I've seen a number of the news stories. Are you a Food Network watcher?
I'm not, but she was relatively young.
Do you have access to that sort of programming out where you live?
Oh, here we go. Yes.
Yeah, I think she was 55.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly what the cause was. I did read one article. It did not say, so I'm not really sure. But, yeah, obviously somebody that's pretty influential and well-loved. Now, it wasn't a fatal situation, but yesterday it was revealed Kristi Noem was, I guess,
yeah,
now I heard everything. She had
an allergic reaction.
Yeah, an allergic reaction to something. Now, you see, rush to the hospital. I believe a press release said, well, it was more precautionary than anything. So, you don't know. On one hand, you get the imagery of, oh my gosh, she went into anaphylactic shock, and we don't know if she's going to make it, or man, I'm kind of having a hard time breathing, and we better get over to the hospital just to check it out. To what degree that occurred, we may know in retrospect. This administration has proven to be a little more transparent about that stuff than the previous administration. When you had like top officials disappearing for weeks at a time, and apparently no one knew it, and then other people were left in charge, and nobody knew that, and well, of course, the entire mental health cover-up of Joe Biden itself. So a bit different in terms of, just the fact that this information was released. You think about the difference in that. Lloyd
Austin.
Lloyd Austin. There we go. I was thinking, I had different names mixed up anyway. So Lloyd Austin, it was how many weeks? And then somehow someone's like, hey, where's that Lloyd Austin guy? And, he disappeared. Well, it was just routine. Well, actually, no, it was cancer. And then, by the way, somebody else was put in charge, and that person didn't know where he was, it would turn out. And like and then Biden's like, I didn't know where he was. No, nobody knew where he was. We sort of accidentally found out that he had just disappeared for weeks. Without apparently telling anyone, or people did know and they covered it up, versus here, Kristi Noem goes to the hospital because of an allergic reaction, and we know about it because the Trump administration lets us know immediately about it. It wasn't, there are reports that she was seen rushed to the hospital there, and then 4 days of the White House trying to cover it up. It's just a completely different world, isn't it? It's kind of nice.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see scattered showers in the morning and then mostly cloudy with a high near 82. Tonight, a slight chance for showers throughout the night with a low around 66. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 86. And looking at to Friday, sunny skies with a high near 91.
So there were, I think, a couple of different local stories about the economic impact on businesses in the Springfield area specifically due to the No Kings protest and Ozarks Pride Fest that I found particularly humorous for a reason that I will explain in a moment. But from Ozarks First, the city of Springfield saw large crowds of people on Saturday, June 14th, gathering for the No Kings protest and the annual Ozark Pride Fest. Both events drew large crowds, estimated 2,000 protesters attending the rally, followed up by over 5,000 people showing up for Narcissist Fest. Michelle Billions, owner of Coffee Ethic, has her cafe at Central Park Square, where Pride Fest was held, saying that it was a big day for business. And so they had all these business owners, and like, yeah, I mean, there was just these left-wing protests and events were a great boom for the economy, for businesses, which is fantastic. It's wonderful. But I couldn't help but think that this same grouping of people on the left, I mean, not the exact same people, but remember back in February, the big boycott that was planned, the economic blackout. Remember this?
Oh, yes.
Remember, because we talked about this? And it was, and you had a number of left-wing groups that were promoting it. Two of the driving reasons, one was to really stick it to Trump. Like, we're going to show him we're in charge. He can't fix this economy. We're going to hurt the economy. So we're really going to show people and not buy. And some people tried to take it. I think it was February 28th was the day. And then some people like, we should push it for a week rather. But the other was also in response to, and it was a call for people in the LGBT community specifically to push back, because increasingly businesses were pulling away from, just being so preachy about this stuff and cramming it down people's throats and just pulling it back to what a lot of people thought was, just the volume down just a little bit. Let's go from an 11 to maybe a 5 or 6. And this really ticked off a lot of people because, again, a lot of the LGBTQ plus active community, they're narcissists. So everything has to be about them. And the minute somebody says, well, we're going to go on and on and on and on and on about you from at a level of 6 out of 10 instead of 11, that means you must be punished. And so you had, in the name of, sticking it to Trump policies and we're going to show Trump by denying businesses, our business, and the LGBTQ plus, we're going to stick it to businesses as well. And now it's these same two groups that are out there, and they are, like, I guess, patting themselves on the back for doing the opposite now. Yeah, we really, this was wonderful. Look at how great we are for. It's like, what? So did you just negate anything that you did last time, or maybe even more? Because I think most of us recognized that the whole boycott for a day thing, and we talked about this, totally meaningless for a whole litany of reasons. When you just put your shopping off to the next day, okay, you still did the shopping. And it wasn't just, the big box stores. There were pushes for, in fact, I found a story from USA Today, various groups calling for widespread boycotts to protest corporations who are following Donald Trump's lead and rolling back DEI. One boycott is an economic blackout proposed for February 28th. On that day, consumers have been encouraged to refrain from spending any money in any stores or even online. So they're really going to stick it to the average business owner in this country. But now apparently they're really happy about doing the opposite. I don't know. It's very difficult to keep up with these causes. Hurt the economy, help the economy. It is so random when it comes to these groups and organizations. There was another story in the same vein and it was a photographer. Was it a photographer? It was a repeat situation in which you had somebody that was, they, whatever their job was, they did not provide those services to, I think it was gay weddings. They didn't deny services to gay people, but the wedding events, like, this is against my religious beliefs. And so, of course, as usual, the response to that is we will force you homophobes to take our business. And so, on one hand, the approach that we see from these activists when it comes to a business that says, hey, I don't provide that particular sort of service, is we will force you to take our money. We are going to force you to have our business. And if we have to go all the way to the Supreme, if we have to get backing from organizations, if we have to get millions of dollars in financial support in order to force you as homophobic individuals to take our business, that's how far we will go to make you do it. But then any given day, you can have any other random business, and the owner, posts something about being against gay marriage, and they're like, we're going to boycott you. How does this stuff get decided? And I don't know that I've ever even heard anyone who participates in these contradictory scenarios, these efforts, try and explain all of this. How they choose which homophobic businesses will be forced to take their money, and how they pick those homophobic businesses that they are going to not only try and deny their money, but also deny them money from other people that are allies as well. Have you ever thought of that? I mean, specifically those of you who participate or support these things. Have you ever? Because I imagine if you support these sort of efforts, you've probably liked or shared a posting from these efforts that are in opposition to one another at different times, and never even thought, recognized, wait a minute, I'm completely contradicting myself. What is it I want here? Now, ultimately, even though the efforts are the exact opposite of one another, and they are contradictory in that manner, there is one common theme. And it is a theme that is pretty synonymous with the left, and that is just punishing people they don't like. And I think that is because that's their ultimate goal. It's not about doing something that's right. It's not about fixing some sort of injustice. It's about punishing people. And so when there is an individual person who perhaps because of their religious beliefs does not offer a particular service that they want them to offer, they see it as a form of punishment to make them find some judge somewhere that will force them either to violate their personal religious beliefs or run them out of business. It's punishment. We'll stick it. We'll show you. You will comply. And on the flip side, if there is an individual that they see as being homophobic and they decide to go the opposite route, and that is to try and lead a boycott against them, denying them business, emotionally, the ultimate point for them is the same. And that is, we'll stick it, we'll show you, we'll punish you, we'll stick it to you. And so sadly, when you recognize that that is actually the one commonality in what otherwise is a contradictory approach by the left when it comes to these sorts of situations, their ultimate goal is just meanness. It's just being mean. And the irony, of course, is that in their minds, they are punishing the mean people, and they are the good ones. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. What am I looking for here? What am I looking for here? Free fuel for the summer. This has been sort of part of the kickoff summer Pinnaker Honda and that new overhauled, brand new facility. I mean, it's in the same location, and some of the infrastructure is the same, but mass improvements, particularly with the service center, and all that's part of what they call the Pinnaker Advantage, and that is where if you purchase a vehicle from Pinnaker Honda, you get 20% off routine maintenance, and even if you get a vehicle from one of their other family-owned stores, Branson, there's one, in my town of Republic. It's where, in fact, I bought my truck. You get 10% off routine maintenance at the Honda location still. So that is a bonus to you. In addition to the certified pre-owned 0.99% APR Honda True Certified Dream Deal sales event, that does end at the end of the month. So if you want to take advantage of that incredible interest rate for a pre-owned certified vehicle, something I would definitely pay them a visit before the end of the month on that. And then in terms of trade-ins, they are offering currently top dollar for your vehicle, and they'll give you an additional $1,000 towards your trade with the purchase of a new Honda. So now is a great time to trade up. So pretty much any scenario you are facing in terms of your vehicle, there's a lot of great leasing options as well as the purchasing options, or new vehicle, certified pre-owned. There is an incredible deal for you right now at Pinnaker Honda, South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. Now, we're talking about the contradiction of these, and the media outlets, too, that cover these stories. And the local stories about how great these left-wing organizations were for the economy and business owners, and like, oh, it's great. Look how great they are for the economy. But it was just a couple months ago they were reporting on some of these same exact people and how they were going to lead boycotts in order to harm the economy. And some of that was aimed at sticking it to Trump. So I guess now they're wanting to reward. I don't know. All these contradictions, if I'm somebody that is a journalist, I'm going to be like, this is interesting. Let's talk about this. But nobody ever wants to. Apparently, there are still numerous ongoing boycotts and upcoming boycotts by people on the left. You said there's one for like McDonald's next week?
Yeah, so they're calling it...
What's that over?
They're calling it the Economic Blackout Tour. Like it's a concert.
Do they have T-shirts that they probably sell for $40?
Actually, they do. So it's...
Do they really sell? They do not sell T-shirts.
They do. Okay, so it's the People's
gosh.
Union USA, and their shirts are $28. So
Jiminy
not $40,
Christmas.
but they do have shirts. June 24th through the 30th, they're doing a McDonald's boycott, and then they have one for July 4th, the Independence Day boycott.
Well, that kind of makes sense for them, being on the left. What's the deal? Why? Okay, why McDonald's?
I don't know. I'm gonna Google it.
So, well, the information that you found on this, it didn't explain. Was
No.
it a news story or was it their info?
It's on their People's Union
Yeah, of
website,
course.
and it's just the Economic Blackout Tour of 2025, and it's got all the dates and then all the companies that they are going to be boycotting. So they've boycotted quite a few.
Well, the fact that, of course, no one has known about these ongoing boycott or these boycott tours, I think pretty much shows that it's done nothing whatsoever. I mean, you think about all the just waste of time stuff that the left does. I know that conservatives have their gatherings and their efforts. Obviously, campaign events, that's different because you have an upcoming, election, and it's a get out the vote thing. So there's meaning to that. Other than that, for conservatives, I mean, I'd say pro-life, like, annually there's the big pro-life event, and that's just a gathering of people. And of course, if you ever attend one of these, you'll see just everybody really, it's a weird context because on one hand it is about something so dark and so macabre, the killing of millions and millions and millions of innocent people, but at the same time, just because of the nature of those that attend, it's usually very uplifting, and people leave feeling good, and a reconnection, recognizing that there are a lot of really good people that are willing to show up in order to fight for, those who are the most vulnerable. But outside of that, you just don't see. And sometimes just a Flag Day, or if it is Flag Day, I think that on Flag Day there were a lot of patriotic conservatives that had flag waving events. So on marked dates like that. But you think of all the like these rolling blackout boycotts and just, all these different events that they're meaningless. I mean, other than just getting around and bitching about something like, yeah, we just don't like this guy. Okay, this is what you did for your day today?
So this is what they say about the McDonald's boycott. They are highlighting ethical concerns. They're addressing health equity and community responsibility. And for the 4th of July boycott, they are highlighting the importance of true independence and equitable freedom.
Okay.
So there you have it.
All right. Yeah. Well, and this is another hallmark of the left. If they really truly believed that McDonald's, for example, represented a lack of health equity and these righteous causes, why would you call on people to only avoid them on one day? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you encourage people to never go to these particular places? If the cause is such a righteous cause, you pick just like, well, we'll just do it one day. And of course, it's not in a vacuum because if, again, whether it's shopping, people, you're giving people that you're encouraging to take a stand by not purchasing the goods or services on that one day, but then you're giving them permission to just do it the next day. It's the most shallow effort, and you see it consistently. It's not really anchored in anything other than again, there's narcissism, and it's just the feeling like, oh, look, I did something. Oh, and you can tell they just really feel proud of themselves. But see, here's what I know. That these folks that derive their satisfaction from an emotional echo chamber that validates their belief that everything is bad. So they get together and they get a bit of an emotional high. Because, oh, look at all these people. Look at these people that came out and, oh, we're all saying the same thing to each other and regurgitating the same talking points. And, oh, look, there's so many. Oh, they're just so excited. But you know what happens? They go back to their sad, lonely life. Back to, their home, their apartment, their wherever it is they live. And then all of that just goes away. And they're back to their existence in which they are chasing something to make them feel as if there's meaning. And it is almost a worse feeling than before the participation because now there's been this vacuum. It's like having withdrawals as opposed to never starting to have that drink in the first place or that heroin in the first place or whatever. It's even worse afterwards, after you've had it and been on that high, and it is part of the cycle of misery that the left participates in. And listen, this isn't study after study after study after study has been done, even by left-wing organizations trying to disprove it, but they all end up proving one thing, and that is people on the left are miserable. And you could just see it play out. I want a great homeloan.com. I was talking with Alex Character yesterday. We were having lunch over at Casper's. It's the first time I've been to the new location, actually. It's how long it's been since I had a Casper's burger. And talking about some of the obstacles people put up in their way when it comes to the process of getting that home loan. And some of it's trying to time things out, thinking, still anticipating because of the anticipated improvement of the economy, interest rates are going to drop, and so that is going to be a better deal. Well, first off, you can always refinance. So if you get an interest rate at 7% now, and then they drop down to 5 at some point, you can refinance. But secondly, the lower the rates go, the more people that are also going to decide, oh, hey, now's the time to do it, which means more buyers, less sellers, by comparison, relatively speaking. And that also means people who are selling their homes know that you can afford more home because of the lower interest rates. And so all of these efforts to oftentimes sort of play or game the system, not in a unethical way, but just to get the best deal possible, ends up backfiring on you. And so just more often than not, trying to wait it out because you think you're going to get a better deal, that does not come to fruition. And not to mention, I had said, when you run that report and they get their approval letter, that's good for 90 days, right? He said, no, it's good for 120 days. So it's not like, oh, I have 30 days. I mean, if you are even beginning to look, you're thinking, oh, we're going to buy a home at the end of the summer. Get that process done now. And I want a greathomeloan.com because you do. We are streaming live, KSGF.com, coming up Friday. I know we're a couple days away, but we will kick off the weekend at Scramblers. That Friday Road Show is sponsored by Shirley's Heating and Air. And over at KSGF.com, you can get registered to win a Godfather's Pizza Party for you and some of your coworkers at work. At the office, but if you don't have an office, that's fine. You can go get registered to get some of the absolute best pizza you can find in the 417, locally owned by a great guy, great family as well. News in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 1041. Really popped that on you, didn't I? Especially online, because people online, they don't hear the intro music, right?
Oh. So you just come in.
I just come in hot. It's just like, bam, all of a sudden I'm there. There's no build up. There's no sort of, getting
I bet
ready,
it startles people sometimes.
Probably. Like,
they're like, oh, okay, they're in a really long commercial break, and then there he is, Springfield.
Or they open it up when we're in a break, and so they have it turned up really loud.
And they're like, where's the audio? Yeah.
The life of an online listener.
Mm-hmm. It's got to be hard.
I've seen one of the bits of audio they continue to show, or video audio, is Trump on the plane and asking about, well, Iran, they talk, about they're ready to talk. And Trump's saying, I'm not in the mood to do that any longer. And, I think a lot of people, I understand, especially if you don't understand Trump, it can just seem so dismissive. Like, how could you just be like, what, just because you're not in the mood? Well, arguably, first off, it really isn't even our responsibility. This is just, it seems as if we kind of want it both ways. Like, this isn't our deal. But then if Trump is like, I'm not in the mood to negotiate this stuff, we're like, oh my God, how could he not do that? It's his responsibility. All right, so yeah. But here is the key to understanding why it isn't just dismissive or like, well, Trump's just like, well, this is part of what you're supposed to do. You're president. Just because you don't feel like it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. When he said he doesn't feel like it, it's because he recognizes that is not something that is going to bear any fruit. This is one of the things about people who are successful. They don't dwell on things. They don't sit around weighing the options ad nauseum. They don't sit around, okay, well, let's talk about it some more. They get the facts, weigh the facts, and then they make a decision. And to some degree, it's numbers. Well, if you do that, you're going to make a lot of wrong decisions, but you're also going to make more right decisions. That's just the way that it is. If you put things off, the further you put things off, the slower you slow things down. And so, Trump's, and I think it probably is for him, emotionally exhausting, not physically, and the same thing between between Russia and Ukraine. In his business life, he really had control over negotiations to the extent that if he decided, he's trying to work or be an arbitrator between individuals, that he could just walk away at any time and be like, all right, well, I'm just done with this. There's no path forward. So I'm going to move on to other things that can be meaningful. The problem or the conflict, I guess, with his successful approach and what occurs now, or I don't even want to say conflict, but the difference is the situation doesn't go away. It's not like some business deal in which negotiations are back and forth, and he finally realizes, okay, well, they're just not going to do what I want, so I'm going to move on to something else, and then it's no harm, no foul. Because you're talking about a country that is attempting to acquire nuclear weapons for, as they have expressed, the purpose of annihilating Israel. And so it's not, you can't walk away and as a result have the situation go away. And when you are used to being able to walk away and then the situation goes away because you've said, all right, we're not going to do this any longer, and that is what you've built your success on, and you recognize that that's how you move things forward and you become a successful person, but then you're in this particular arena and it doesn't work that way. It's got to be very frustrating. You're just like, what do you want at this point? For me, the Trump approach thus far that we have seen when it comes to Israel is the absolute on-point, appropriate approach. and that is the recognition that Israel's not going to stop. Sorry, Iran is not going to stop until their stated goal is achieved, and that is the elimination of Israel. For decades, Israel may have successfully carried out missions that just kick the can down the road until they rebuild. And even if it's not a nuclear weapon, this is part of the desire for a regime change. Like, well, they've already set back the nuclear capabilities for for 2 decades. That clearly is a priority. But at the same time, nuclear weapons weren't needed in order to carry out October 7th. I mean, the people of Israel, constantly under attack. And he knows that unless there's a fundamental change, that's not going to change. But he also believes in giving people chance. So his approach is, I'm president now. October 7th, Israel's gunning for you. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you 60 days. I'll be the mediator on this thing. And Iran was like, no, we're not going to come to the table. And so at that point, Trump's like, all right, there's another, at this point, it's Israel's game. I just, for me, I don't know that there could be a better approach on this than Trump is taking. I think that, when you look at Russia and Ukraine, that's a different situation. And I think there is a lot of room for intelligent people to have differing opinions on the best approach there. But when it comes to the approach that the United States has taken under Trump, dealing with this so far, I don't know that it could be a more on-point approach. That's just my assessment. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see scattered showers in the morning and then mostly cloudy with a high near 82. Tonight we'll see a slight chance for showers throughout the night with a low around 66. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 86. And looking ahead to Friday, sunny skies with a high near 91.
Sarah Myers.
Thank you. The Pyramid Roofing Company, it's always good to know a trusted expert when something goes wrong. And for all of your roofing needs, that's Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, they've been providing top-notch quality roofing in the Ozarks for over 30 years now. They do residential, commercial, metal roofing. They do it all. And if you find yourself in a emergency situation, they also do emergency tarping services as well. Now, from the insurance process to the design process, they are with you every step of the way because they really do want the best solution for you and your home. So whether you need a whole new roof or just a simple roof repair, schedule that free roof inspection with Josh and his team today. Now, you can find all of their contact information at pyramidroofingmo.com or under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
There's a piece floating around the internet from 2012. It's a couple years into the Obama administration that was from CNN. And it was titled, "Liberals Want Obama to be a king, not a president." And this is flying around because the left runs around today and like, well, I want king. And the fact that they do actually want a king. They want somebody in which they can surrender themselves and be in complete compliance. They just want it to be a person that tells them what they want to hear. And this particular piece that was from 2012 regarding the left and Democrats wanting Obama to be king, and it starts off the noting that, are liberals ever happy? I mean, here they got their guy, and it was citing a number of even high-profile left-wingers that are out there just complaining because, well, Obama's not doing enough. He's not doing enough. And this was because Congress was not, the DREAM Act, for example, and how Obama correctly recognized that he wasn't a dictator, and so he couldn't just magically create legislation in order to give amnesty to all of the so-called dreamers. And, of course, he would decide to go ahead and do just that, and that pleased the left. And at the time, the left was angry that he wouldn't just do that, just bypass Congress. I mean, that's the exact verbiage they used at the time, bypass Congress. You've got a pen, you've got a piece of paper, just do it. And, I mean, it cited at the time people like Matt Damon and John Cusack and Cornel West and, how, they were all just very unhappy with Obama because he wasn't issuing these dictates. And, of course, we saw it with Biden as well, particularly when it came to the student loan situation, where he openly, even when he was running for re-election and calling Trump a wannabe dictator, was openly acknowledging the Supreme Court told him you can't just transfer debt from people who voluntarily took it out for student loans to the American people. And he said, I did it anyway. And they applauded him. When it came to some ruling that the Supreme Court made under Biden, a number of Democrats, Ocasio-Cortez was one of them, saying that you just need to just bypass the court. You may recall a period of time where Democrats were arguing that they needed to just start putting left-wingers on the court until the court started ruling the way that they wanted. This is where some of you on the left, you lose all of your credibility. And I don't even know if you realize it, that you're not being honest with yourself or anyone else when you stand. Like I guarantee you at least 80 to 95%, maybe 100% of these no king people that were protesting in Springfield or across the country all applauded and supported Obama when he bypassed Congress to create the DREAM Act, who he himself acknowledged he could not constitutionally do. They all applauded. Joe Biden, when he said, I know it was illegal, I know the courts told me I couldn't do it, but I did it anyway. You people are all posers. You're dishonest. You're liars. And until we get to the point where we could just start acknowledging this stuff, it's not going to get any better. All of the just the self-imposed angst and fear that you people create about Trump. I notice that you don't even give specific examples. Like I just gave you very specific examples in which both of those two past Democrat presidents themselves acknowledged that they were in defiance of the Constitution. It was their acknowledgement. They just decided to do it anyway because they wanted to. Yet for all of the posters and all of the slogans, what is it? Where is it? What is it? Deportation? That's the law. I mean, that's the enforcement of the law. Not ignoring it, which is what a dictator would actually do. Oh, I don't. That's another sign of a dictator. Well, I know the law says when it comes to immigration that there is a process and that you have to go through all of this. But you know what? Come anyway. Which is what Biden said when he was running in the primary. Said, if I'm elected president, all of you that were turned away because of our immigration laws under the Trump administration, I will welcome you back. That's what a dictator does. If we want to start throwing around the term dictator, they ignore the law. You all love to label a guy a dictator because he's enforcing the law, saying that everybody has to abide by the law. And if we don't like the laws, Congress changes them. That's how it works. You people are a combination of ignorant buffoons who have no idea what you're talking about and complete dishonest posers. Useful idiots as well. It's a nice little mixed bowl of nuts. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 104.1. Chicago schools face enrollment crisis with 150 buildings half empty. This is another example of just the left destroying children and their education. And for a lot of us, gets to the point, just go ahead. I mean, it's clear that people who live in these Democrat-run cities do not care about their children's education. I think they just oftentimes care more to have a babysitter. Because you cannot have a continued, well, now some of them do, hence the reason that enrollment has dropped, because they're getting them the hell out of there. You know, you have people for political, ideological purposes that sacrifice their own children's future. They don't care what the results are. They don't care that there's the proof of fail. Well, that's my party, so let's keep doing it. Let's keep screwing these kids over. No concerns for results. No concerns for the kids. I mean, we saw it here in Springfield when it came to the city or the school board vote most recently. Same thing. And so we will continue to see a decline in the results of the education, and it's the kids. which, of course, in turn have tremendous impact on all of us. The report authored by Chalkbeat and ProPublica found that 47% of Chicago schools are operating at less than 1/3 capacity, leading to high cost and limited course offerings. Now, of course, this is typical government. The less people they're serving, the more that it costs them. I mean, is that not perfect for any like private industry? The less people you serve, the less that it's costing, right? Because you're putting out less product or less services for the recipient of the product or service. You don't have to have as many employees, so you're not paying them. No, not in government. Somehow, the less people that you are serving, and the more you're failing those that you are serving, the more money it costs. That's government. Specifically in school districts run in blue districts. Quote, district officials project that 3 school years from now, there could be as few as 300,000 or, in a best-case scenario, as many as 334,000 students in the entire Chicago school district. Those estimates are based, in part, on the city's sharply falling birth rate citywide from 2011 to 2012. Number of births dropped by more than 43%, the author of the report wrote. And then those, of course, that can get out are. Now, unfortunately, those who, and this again, consistent with policies of the left, the wealthy have the ability to get their kids out. Middle income, sometimes they're able to. Lower income, screwed. They are trapped in these prisons. And we just have to acknowledge that the people who support this do not care about kids. You can't. You cannot care about kids if you continue to support this. I mean, if you take kids and, to a restaurant, and when you take them to the restaurant, they all get food poisoning. But you just keep going back. And they continue to get every single time they get food poisoning. And in fact, it gets a little worse every time. You know what would happen if that were discovered? The person who was responsible for taking them to that little restaurant on the field trip would go to jail. Because it would be clear it was purposeful. You don't enter into a situation in which there is a complete failure and decide to do it over and over and over again unless it's deliberate. Of course, in that scenario, the person who is responsible for it would say, well, but if, we didn't take the kids, the cooks and the servers and the managers, they'd lose their jobs and it would just be unfair. We can't have competition. I mean, these absurd, but that's the exact approach they take when it comes to educating children. We're going to take a break. Wait until you hear how much it now costs per student for such a complete and immoral failure in specifically the Chicago public schools.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, brought to you by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see scattered showers in the morning and then mostly cloudy with a high near 82. Tonight, a slight chance for showers throughout the night with a low around 66. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 86. And looking at Friday, sunny skies with a high near 91.
Chicago schools facing enrollment crisis, 150 buildings half empty. There are some schools that are operating at less than third capacity, so it's less than 33%. And because it is government, of course, that is somehow costing more. And this is a continuing crisis. And there's just no way to get around it. No one in specifically these Democrat-run cities, they have no interest in fixing this at all. I would argue it's because all they care about is intellectually enslaving, emotionally enslaving these individuals, believing and making them incapable of taking care of themselves in life so that they rely on the political party and vote for the political party that says, don't worry, we'll force other people to take care of you. Some would argue that's not true. I would suggest offer up any other explanation. Any other explanation. That can make sense and explain why it is that we continue to do the exact same thing over and over again and produce horrific results that continue to decline without changing the way things are done. The only answer is, well, let's give it more money. While the city faces enrollment struggles, the city spends about $18,700 per student. Some schools are double or triple that number, according to the report. One school in the Chicago district, the breakdown cost $93,000 per student. $93,000 per student per year. DeSable High School, which has declining enrollment, cost almost $50,000 per student, according to the report. That is one of the schools that is operating less than a third capacity. You may recall once upon a time we were told that the biggest obstacle to successful education was classroom size. Should these not be the leading schools in the nation? When you have classroom sizes that are less than a third of what they are capable of being? Frederick Douglass Academy High School costs $93,000 per student. The analysis found that students in the city's smallest schools have fewer courses to choose from and often miss out on clubs, extracurricular activities, and sports. Chicago's under-enrolled high schools are more likely to have lower graduation and college enrollment rates. They tend to struggle with chronic truancy and higher dropout rates. Now, again, that defies what we've always been told, and that smaller classroom sizes are the key to success. Yet here is the opposite. And it's just like everything with government, specifically government that is run by the left. The opposite of what they claim is true. Now, when you look at some of these numbers, particularly the one school where it's $93,000 per student, I thought I would look up out of curiosity the most expensive private schools in the country. Number 10 was listed as St. Andrew's School. It's a private Delaware boarding school. So in other words, it's not just classrooms during the day. It's a boarding. The kids live there. $62,280 a year. That's $30,000. It costs $30,000 more per pupil for a child to be failed in the Chicago public schools than it costs to go to one of the most elite private boarding schools in the country. Oh, we can't. Oh, private schools. Oh, that's bad. We can't privatize. It would be awful to privatize. Why? Because kids may get a better education? Oh, no, we got to worry about the unions. That's a top priority. There's Wasatch Academy. It's listed as number 9 in Utah, $62,300 a year. Berkshire School in Massachusetts, $64,200. The Lang School in New York, $65,000. Oxford Academy in Connecticut, $67,000 a year. Woodhull School with a small student body, which somehow small student body actually in a private school system somehow is an advantage. Public schools, it's a disadvantage. $74,500 per year. Quad Preparatory School, $75,850 a year. Connecticut's Foreman School, which serves students with ADHD and dyslexia, costs $78,600 per year. And they have listed as the most expensive private school in the country, the Therapeutic High School in New England, Shortridge Academy. Costs the most out of all the private schools serving students. The school charges $85,000 a year. That is still $7,000 less, $8,000 less, rather, than at least one of the public schools in Chicago with an absolute abysmal rate of success. I mean, it's a complete total failure. And then the people who run these failed schools have the audacity at times to strike, as teachers in Chicago, administrators in Chicago, maybe it's a combination of the two, did just within the last couple of years. This is immoral. And this is one of the areas that the two Democrat parties, now there's fault to be spread around, but for different reasons. Now, when it comes to the Democrat Party, they are the originators of this in this country. They are the ones that they want this. And they can't claim otherwise. Well, we're trying. Really? Because at some point, if you try and fail, you know what you do? If you really, truly care, you give someone else a try. You know, maybe you've seen that sort of scenario play out, television drama, and there's surgery going on, and the one doctor's, and I just can't get it. Someone else, like, here, you step in, take over. And when you have some sort of emergency situation going on and there's a number of people that are, at least have some degree of capability of saving the situation, and somebody's, they are there at the helm and it is not going well, they say, here, you give it a try. Why? Because they care about the outcome. Democrats do not care about they don't care about children's education. And the proof of that is the fact that they continue to destroy it everywhere they get their hands on it. And if you support that political party, you're supporting this. There's just no way around it. Now, the Republican side of it is that while there are a number of conservative, liberty-minded Republicans that recognize that, ideology aside, maybe we should just look at what works and do that, you largely have a Republican Party that has been too afraid to make any real meaningful changes to benefit kids when it comes to this particular issue because of teachers' unions. And, we have allowed ourselves to believe whomever says that they want to throw the most money at the problem, that's the person who cares the most, even though that clearly isn't the solution. Again, look at Chicago or any other major city that is dealing with this same level of failure. And Missouri, again, I mean, I laugh. I hear particularly some of these organizations that may really truly be trying to get meaningful education reform done in Missouri, and we really think this is the year. We're going to get meaningful school choice and it's just like, really? Have you seen the Republican Party leadership in this state? How long it is, and that's where the Republican Party's at fault. The Republican Party in the state of Missouri has veto-proof control, supermajority. Does anyone believe they're actually going to make real, true, fundamental changes? Now, we're not as bad off as, although, we're not great. Springfield's a perfect example of that. By any other standard, you think of it, what was it? The left, they tried to sue Trump and go after Trump because he had that real estate school or whatever, and they're like, well, the rate of success is only... Are you serious? You're really going to start squawking about rate of success when it comes to educational outcomes of all the institutions to try to, quote, hold someone accountable? The government, particularly the left? You ought to be in prison for what you've been doing. And the fact that you can have the most expensive, most elite private schools in this country per student costs less than it does for the government in Democrat-run cities to destroy children's education is an immoral shame, and people should go to prison for it. We don't have laws but there really truly ought to be. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Streaming live, KSGF.com, 100 hardscapes and outdoor landscape, outdoor living space design, paver patios, retaining walls, sod installation, garden bed construction, drainage solutions that are really great with nice looking ones as well. Looks like you really know what's going on. This is a listing of some of what they can do. But I like to think more just about what that means for you, what it means in terms of taking your outdoor space and making it a living space. Whether it's something as simple as getting a very stable, hard space that you can set up for your green egg or your Traeger or your charcoal grill, just a place to sit, or something much more extensive and elaborate. Whatever your needs are, they can do it. Now, if you're thinking, yeah, and fall is around the time we want to do it, get in touch with them now. There is some lead time there because of the level of service they provide. These aren't the folks that are going to show up, do some measurements, go to the big box store, buy supplies. In fact, because of the premier level of their supplies, they have to special order. They don't go, it's not something that just the average person can go pick up at a big box store. And so between the design and the acquisition of the premier products, and just the amount of work and prep work they do. When Daniel Hunter was with us a couple weeks ago, I think he said about 90% of the actual work is the proper preparation so that it stays for the duration and even beyond the life of your home if necessary, although I don't know what that circumstance would be. But the longevity's there. If you're going to pay for something, and you know what? It may cost a little more, but it's the difference between having it done right, and if you're going to spend a significant amount of money anyhow, you might as well spend, and this is the way I look at it, a little more to have it done right, because what you get, that return, far exceeds the little extra that you may be investing. There is a cost estimation calculator, and you can see before and after work on their site as well. Hunter Hardscapes is the website. If you forget it, don't worry. KSGF.com, Nick's endorsements. You can go there. Check it out. I kind of want to maybe move some things around here. I've got a number of Democrats crying about being arrested. These people are so thirsty. I mean, it's so painfully. Oh, I know. This is a good one. Let's move this up here and go first. Okay, just changed it again. New border numbers are in. 0 illegal crossers released under Trump. Well, look at that. And without Congress coming together with some sort of bipartisan legislation, it's almost as if that was a lie all this time. CBP released the May monthly border numbers showing that the United States did not need any new legislation. All it needed was a new president. On Tuesday, in a stunning turnaround that underscores the effectiveness of President Trump's restored border policies, this is Town Hall reporting, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, released the May border numbers showing that there were 0 illegal border crossings released into the interior of the United States. That's down from the year ago number, which was 62,000. Those were those that were caught and then told, come on in. Additionally, illegal crossings between ports of entry have dropped by 93% year over year. In May 2024, there were 117,905 border encounters under the Biden administration. Just 1 year and a new president later, there were just 8,725. That's encounters. And that's, by the way, part of the reason that the number of released was 0. Part of the excuse that the Biden administration gave, and it was an excuse because this, of course, was their plan all along, was to flood this country with cheap slave labor and new voters, was, to surge the border, to flood it so that it would be overwhelmed. And then there would be too many people, so anyone that they caught, they would just have to turn around and let go anyway. Well, within 2 weeks, under Trump's leadership, you had a massive number of people self-deporting. But when it came to the initial problem of those coming into this country illegally in the first place, you had this amazing thing happen. When you're not invited, oftentimes people don't come. Isn't that crazy? It's like the difference between having a party at your house and not having one. If you're like, hey, everyone, we're having a party. Anyone that wants to come over, come over. By the way, we're going to have free food, free booze if you want to stay the night. If you don't want to stay the night, don't worry. We'll offer you free Uber or Lyft wherever you want to go. And if you decide to drive and get a DUI, don't worry. We'll cover your attorney as well. So, it's just going to be a big party. If you do that, you're going to have a lot of people show up. If, on the other hand, you just straight up, I'm not even talking about warning people don't come over, but you don't invite people over. I mean, you may have one random person come over, just be like, hey, just thought I'd come say hey. But other than that, how many people come to your house uninvited? Probably not a whole heck of a lot, right? So the sheer fact that we had a person in charge that was not and did not run on the premise of y'all come back, any of you that were not allowed in because you were coming here illegally, come on back. And by the way, free health care, free attorneys, free whatever you want. You name it, you got it. Free gift cards, free phones, free hotel stays at some of the nicest hotels in New York City. You know, when you think about it, how remarkably simple it actually was to stop that. You just stop that. And what total BS from the media, the Democrats, and some establishment Republicans just a year plus ago claiming that, no. Oh, there's absolutely no way to stop this from happening. No way whatsoever without, taking a lot more of your tax dollars from you. Sorry, that's just the only option there is. I mean, even those of you who hate Trump, do you not recognize that at least in that situation, he was the one guy telling you the truth? And the people who supported him? That was not needed. And in fact, it wasn't only not needed, it would have made things worse because what it did was fund the expedition of getting those illegals into this country. And it allowed a certain amount of illegals to come in before we would even attempt to stop them from doing so. It was sort of like the Iranian nuclear deal or the nuclear deal with North Korea. It masqueraded as something that was supposed to help the problem when in fact it facilitated it. I just wish, and I know so many of you get it, but so many of you you got to wake up. Get past this Republican-Democrat thing. Get past the I hate Trump thing. Get past all and just start paying it. Have a little self-respect for Pete's sakes. And if there's any issue that was a greater example of the total complete BS, the con job, the lie between the media and the Democrats and the Biden administration, and again, a lot of establishment Republicans, most of which were in the Senate, it was over this border issue and what it was going to take to stop people from coming into this country illegally. Like less than 30 days. It was so easy. It really is a bit of a contradiction because on one hand, Trump is credited with one of the most amazing feats that has ever been completed, and that is to take such a massive problem and within a month's time completely fix it in terms of the flow over the border. Now, you got the secondary issue of those that already came in and getting them out, but that first part. And so it has been recognized to do something that meaningful that fast, particularly in government, is absolutely unheard of. But really, the reality is it was one of the simplest things to do. And if that doesn't wake you up to the fact that just the way that so many of us have allowed ourselves to be lied to and bought into it over something that so easily was fixable, there's probably no hope for you. If that doesn't clue you in, if you're not willing to acknowledge that truth, then you've given into the cult. There's another incident, I guess, of a Democrat trying to get arrested and then crying about it afterwards. This time from a far left New York city mayoral candidate. And it's just so obvious. This is part of why it doesn't work. Is like virtually everything Democrats have become known for, it's all fake. It's all theater. And it is yet another example of Democrats trying to mimic Trump because they see Trump as a success, and they refuse to believe it's because of his results. And they refuse to believe it's because people believe him when he says stuff. And they see him as a guy that isn't a career politician that, gets in there and continues to push things that fail and then continue to push them over and over again. Is one of the characteristics of Trump is if something doesn't work, he pivots and he tries something else. I think even those people who hate him can't deny that because it's about what works. Okay, this didn't work. Why would you do that again? That doesn't make any sense. That's his approach. And he's been trained that way by his environment, in which he is somebody that, of course, he had learned a lot from his own father, but as somebody who had an interest in succeeding, and when your own money's on the line and your own personal success is on the line and you're making big decisions that are, where failure can mean, very life-altering things in terms of your economic situation in life, that it's a no-brainer. If you're trying something and it isn't working, then you just stop doing that. And that's what makes a lot of sense to a lot of Americans as well, particularly if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur. I believe this is one of the reasons that Trump resonates so much with professional athletes, because that's how professional athletes are, right? Particularly when you're training, which professional athletes always are. When you're trying something a certain way and you're not getting the results, you don't keep doing it. It's a no-brainer. You try something different. And they see that in Trump. Well, that's the opposite of the way most people in politics are, particularly, especially the Democrat Party. Failure is something that you just do it over and over and over again. And in fact, you do more of it. You demand more money. And so the things that average Americans like about Trump, Democrats just refuse to acknowledge. So they try to do other things that Trump does, hoping that that will somehow make people like them as well. Well, the problem is when Trump does these things, it's authentic. When they do it, it's clearly fake. And it's cringy. Can you, this, it must be so frustrating to them. Trump has what arguably is one of the worst dances ever. Most people would not, we call it the Trump dance. Most people would not even recognize it as a dance. Like if you got some sort of dance expert and like it's really truly defining what is a dance, they'd say that's not even a dance. That's not dancing. Trump does it. And not only is it something that, now the left may have tried to make fun of him for it because it's the left, but average people found it humorous. They thought it was funny. And I made this point the other day. It got to where you had professional athletes doing it when they would score a touchdown or do something amazing. It became this thing. It wasn't because it was an awesome dance. It was because it was just this authentic, funny thing. It was real. Like, here's a guy that has the weight of the world on his shoulders. He has, the left has tried to assassinate him, came very close to succeeding. They have tried to put him in prison. They have tried to throw him off campaign ballots. They have tried to overturn his first election and, oust him out of the White House. They've tried to frame him, colluding with, you can go down the list of things. Yet that guy can still get up there and just be that way. But if you're a leftist and so you look at that and you're like, that's a horrible day. Why is that? Okay, let's do something like that. And so you come up with that stupid video that had some of the lady members of Congress doing the like avatar or whatever. It was one of their cringy attempts to go viral a couple of 3 months ago, and it fails spectacularly. They get mocked. Now, if you don't understand why it is that Trump resonates with people, imagine how frustrating that has to be for somebody like Ocasio-Cortez. You go to these red carpet events, you're invited to the Met Gala, you are just gushed over by celebrities, you're one of the cool kids and everything, but Trump is able to pull things off that you can't, that, Trump somehow is cool for doing this stuff, this 78-year-old guy, 79-year-old guy. What? I don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm sure they don't. It's got to be very frustrating. Well, it's because you're fake. So we increasingly are seeing these Democrats that are trying to get themselves arrested, and we all know why. It's because, well, Trump, we arrested him, and that really worked in his favor. So now if we get arrested. Now, there's some hysterical audio that has come about with this, and I want to play some of it. But let me tell you, there's one huge difference between why it is that Trump's arrest resonated versus, aside from the authenticity part, and the thirsting, aspect of it, where they're just trying to seek attention. But there's just this one huge overriding thing about it that I'm watching it just with great joy, because they are taking the situation that wouldn't work anyway, but they're making it worse. So anyway, I want to talk about that coming up. Talk a text line, 447 KSGF. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, brought to you by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see scattered showers in the morning and then mostly cloudy with a high near 82. Tonight we'll see a slight chance for showers throughout the night with a low around 66. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 86. And looking at the Friday, sunny skies with a high near 91.
All right, let's who do we want to start with? Let's start out with Senator Padilla. Is it? I don't even know which one it is. Padilla. It's the senator from California. No one knew was a senator. He was a nobody.
I'm horrible at names, so your guess is as good as mine.
Well, and I've heard it talked about, and he is. So he's the guy who showed up and snuck into a press conference meant for the press, and then while Kristi Noem, this was her press conference, was giving a statement to the press, he works his way through and starts yelling at her, and of course immediately security, they see this guy storming at her, and so they go to stop him, and he's like, I'm a senator. Well, like, oh, okay, well, go ahead then. I mean, just it's the elitism. I should be able to do what I want to. But he was treated like anyone else who would, under false pretense, enter into a press conference and start screaming at the person. And I don't care who you are. I don't care if this is the previous administration or not. You're not allowed to do that. And so he was taken out. And most people saw it for what it was. Now, you had some idiot Democrats out there like Elizabeth Warren said Kristi Noem, of all people, needed to resign. Like, why did she need to resign? Because Secret Service prevented him from, disrupting this press conference? I don't know, but that's the logic of Elizabeth Warren. The average person saw this for what it was, an attempt to get attention. No one knew who this guy was outside of California until then. And it was also, I think, an attempt to get arrested because they believe, well, that worked for Trump, so let's try it as well. Now, here he is. Listen to this. This is on the Senate floor recounting. Now, if you haven't seen the video, by the way, he wasn't. I think the best way to put it was the physical response of security was 100% appropriate for what occurred. It wasn't like they threw him down and flash bombed him and started kicking him and beating him with billy clubs and stuff. They didn't even really rough him up. I mean, as he was trying to push past them, they pushed back and got him out the door. Here he is recounting the moment on the Senate floor.
बात ये नहीं है कि मैं क्या बनूंगा.
That's the wrong one. Oh, we've got that coming up. All right, please hold. All right, here we are. Sorry about that.
I was forced to the ground. First on my knees, and then flat on my chest. And as I was handcuffed and marched down a hallway, repeatedly asking, why am I being detained? Not once did they tell me why. I pray you never have a moment like this.
Well, guess what? I won't, because I won't ever storm someone at a press or interrupt a press conference.
You're
like that.
You're not going to stage something for potential political gain.
Yeah, so probably won't find myself in that situation. I'm telling you. And then he went. He's like, I didn't even know where they were taking me. It is so. All right, and I've got a couple of other examples of other Democrats doing this. This is really, aside from it's fake, where they get it wrong. When Trump got arrested, his mugshot was really the only real sense that the American public got to view the arrest, right? What was Trump's posture? It was looking forward defiance. It was keep them coming. It was, though on a much obviously different scale because of the enormity of the assassination, but it was similar to his reaction to being shot. Stood up and said, fight. Strength. Manliness. In fact, that mugshot he has in the White House. The Democrats, even when they're the ones who create the situation, like this happens, their approach is to cry like a baby. To become some sort of blubbering idiot. I didn't know. Like, you're a pansy. That is so gross. Particularly given, one, again, this was a self-created situation, but it's not like you were a January 6ther that was thrown in solitary confinement for 3 years without a trial. And this is more of the Democrat not getting. This is their reaction so often to stuff. They break down and cry. And it's usually in the context of Trump. Whether it's on the Senate floor and their voice is breaking up and, I just can't believe, I've never in my life. We've seen this on numerous occasions from journalists at times. That display of weakness is not appealing. Now, I'm not saying that crying in and of itself is a weakness. I believe that that is a physical, human reaction that we have for very specific reasons, just like laughter. It is an emotional release that is necessary for emotional health. But just like laughter, if you run around laughing all the time at absolutely everything, people would be like, I think there's something wrong with that person. Same thing with crying. Just because crying isn't a bad thing doesn't mean that when you do it at every single thing or that doing it at any particular time is appropriate. And I'm not talking like culturally or ethically appropriate. Just it's not a emotionally healthy, appropriate reaction in certain instances. And Democrats continue. And I think part of it, they do work themselves up, but part of it is because they feel like you don't understand how bad Trump is. And so they have to cry for you to realize how desperately bad things are. But to normal people, these are not situations that really warrant a person to cry. And frankly, I'll say it, particularly for a guy. You can say what you want about me having my gender biases and so forth, but it's just true. I'm just talking about human reaction. And so when people see someone like Donald Trump get arrested, take a mug shot, looking straight into that camera, and you know, the thing is, without it being spoken, you just knew he was looking at the people who were coming after him. That's that look. Staring into that camera, staring into the eyes of those people trying to murder him, those people trying to put him in prison, those people trying to destroy his life. It's strength and defiance. That's why that mugshot. Can you imagine what the reaction would have been and how it would have been perceived if instead his eyes were all puffy because he'd been crying because he was arrested? Because they're trying to put him in prison. If he was all, his hair was all messed up and his shirt collar, and you could tell, he didn't have tears necessarily pouring down his face, but his eyes were all puffy. Supporters would have been a bit embarrassed, maybe felt bad for him. Independent people that were still trying to weigh how they vote, that'd give them an icky feeling like, oh, well, gosh, I guess that tough guy act is just an act after all. But that's the way Democrats react in these situations. And so when you hear, and it's this contradiction, because at the same time they're trying to portray themselves as some sort of great warriors, yet they get up and they cry. And over something that is such a insignificant moment that all was created theater for the purposes of the camera anyhow. It's gross. It's extremely unappealing. It's off-putting. But on the other hand, it's hilarious to watch these Democrats try to replicate something that happened to Trump but miss largely the entire point of why it resonated with people and instead go the opposite direction. Though their instinct has tended over the last couple of years to be virtually wrong about virtually everything. All right, we got traffic coming up, but they're also a far-left New York City mayoral candidate gets busted by ICE in chaotic scene at Manhattan Court after repeatedly obstructing lawful immigration enforcement. Now, this is one of the lesser-known candidates, but this is the new thing for Democrats. Is, we gotta get arrested, But then again, instead of taking that arrest and then having this chin-out defiance, they cry about it. They whine about it. I was just trying to do this thing, and they stopped me from doing it. And it reminds me of like a guy that is a really, really unappealing boyfriend because he's very weak and cry. And then he's trying to win back favor from an ex-girlfriend, and he does it by just crying, and you just don't understand how much it's like, ew, no, this is not appealing at all. That's how these Democrats are. So as the New York Post reported, city comptroller Brad Lander created a chaotic scene yesterday at Federal Plaza in Manhattan after he repeatedly demanded to see a warrant for an individual being escorted away by immigration officials. And there's a video of it, and it's the guy's just being a pill. He's being an annoyance. He is physically struggling with law enforcement, which is something Democrats apparently think that their little DNC card or that D next to their name means disregard all laws and gives them a free pass to physically struggle or fight with law enforcement. Because the moment they're held accountable for it, how dare you? It's my constitutional right to fight with law enforcement. The Landers whined as he was being cuffed. You don't have the authority to arrest U.S. citizens. Well, yeah. The Post reported that Landers was arrested on an obstruction of governmental administration charge. Following the incident, his wife posted on his X account that Landers' team is aware and monitoring the situation. Landers' spokesperson, Dora Peckick, spoke to the New York Post following the arrest, quote, while escorting a defendant out of immigration court at 26 Federal Plaza, Brad Lander was taken by masked agents and detained by ICE. I'm surprised she didn't use the word disappeared. This is still developing. We're monitoring the situation closely. Oh, How very intense. This scene, for a lot of people in New York, of course, reminds them of the recent incident with Representative LaMonica McIver, who, once again, elected Democrat, assaulting a federal agent, because that apparently is a First Amendment right if you're a Democrat. McIver, for her part, shouted to the federal agent, quote, "I touch whoever I want, mother effer." And that's the apparent understanding of elected Democrats. They get to do whatever they want. They are above the law. And that includes obstructing justice and assaulting law enforcement. And if they are held accountable, and if they're treated like everyone else is treated, who would do that? Well, Trump's clearly a dictator.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see scattered showers in the morning and then mostly cloudy skies with a high near 82. Tonight we'll see a slight chance for showers throughout the night with a low around 66. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 86. And looking at the Friday, sunny with a high near 91.
All right, so I didn't play the audio, but there's a video. There wasn't much to the audio of the comptroller of New York. He's also running for, I think he's running for mayor. Let me make sure that, yeah. He's a mayoral candidate. And, he tried to obstruct justice when ICE was taking someone to or fro immigration courts or something. And so he was detained and handcuffed for obstructing justice. Now, This video, I believe, is actually a couple of weeks old. This is another Democrat running. He's actually a self-proclaimed socialist running for mayor of New York City. New York City has just some of the absolute finest running for office there, looking to run that city. Now, this guy, by the way, according to the latest poll, their primary for the Democrats, which is presumed to be the next mayor of New York, though, this guy in the last poll was winning. Now, just by one, but the previous poll, he was only 1 or 2 points behind Killer Cuomo, who apparently the people of New York want to reward for killing off countless elderly people by shoving COVID patients into nursing homes. Again, New York City makes brilliant decisions. So this candidate, Zohran Mamdani, who isn't from America, he's Syrian-born, let's see. No, he was. This is video of him demanding that a Syrian-born foreign national who was one of the masterminds behind organizing the anti-Semitic protests that terrorized the Jewish students at Columbia. This is his cause. This is his big cause, is to get this terrorist sympathizer out of confinement. And here he is confronting law enforcement, specifically Tom Homan. All right, so that's another one. Elected Democrat. He's currently I believe he is on the city council, and he is just by a point, though, leading the Democrat primary in New York. Here's one of his campaigns, if you want to get a sense of why apparently he is polling so well in New York.
बात ये नहीं है कि मैं क्या बनूंगा, बात ये है कि मैं क्या करूंगा हमारे कम्युनिटीज के लिए और हर एक न्यूयॉर्कर के लिए। मैं हमारे शहर को अफोर्डेबल बनाऊंगा। न्यूयॉर्कर्स मुश्किल से अफोर्ड कर रहे हैं रोटी, कपड़ा और मकान। मैं ये सब बदलने के लिए लड़ रहा हूँ। रेंट फ्री बसेस, यूनिवर्सल चाइल्ड केयर और सस्ती ग्रोसरीज के जरिए। पर आपको एक सवाल पूछना चाहता हूँ, तुमने कभी किसी को वोट किया?
All right, so that is one of his campaign ads for New York. I think the Democrat Party is afraid that he might just be a little too much. You have the New York Times writing a cautionary editorial, letting the people of New York, this won't be a good decision for us. A part of their editorial reads, unfortunately, Mr. Mamdani is running on an agenda uniquely unsuited to the city's challenges. He is a democratic socialist who too often ignores the unavoidable trade-offs of governance. He favors rent freezes that could restrict housing supply and make it harder for younger New Yorkers and new arrivals to afford housing. He wants the government to operate grocery stores. Yes, this is part of his campaign promise. Have government take over grocery stores. Because government has proved, they make everything cheaper. They make everything more efficient. He wants government to operate grocery stores as if customer service and retail sales were strength of the public sector. He minimizes the importance of policing. Most worrisome, he shows little concern about the disorder of the past decade, even though its costs have fallen hardest on the city's working class and poor residents. Democrat policies always do. This isn't anything different. This is part of what's so hilarious about the Democrats in the New York Times, like, hey, this guy probably wouldn't be the best choice. But the reasons they give describe all Democrats. They note that Mamdani, who has called former Mayor de Blasio the best New York mayor of his lifetime, offers an agenda that remains alluring among elite progressives, but has proved damaging to city life. Mr. Mamdani would also bring less relevant experience than perhaps any mayor in New York history. He has never run a government department or any private organization. As a state legislature, he has struggled to execute his own agenda. We do not believe that Mr. Mamdani deserves a spot on New York's ballots. But this is the thing about the Democrat Party. This is just a guy who is showing what the average Democrat will be in 10 years. Every step along the way, over the past several decades, if you were to take what would be considered an extreme leftist Democrat, who even outfits like the New York Times acknowledge have policies that damage the poor more than any other class, that extremist Democrat, you leap forward 10 years, and average Democrats hold those perspectives. Just look at the party overall. It was 10 years ago. You only heard very few absolute extreme Democrats talking about sex change operations for kids, talking about the need for pornography in elementary schools, talking about how girls should be forced to compete against boys. And it was something that just very few extremists. Well, now that's mainstream for Democrats. So whenever they show somebody like Mamdani, a socialist Democrat who is running for the mayor of New York City and the New York Times like, now this guy's just a little too extreme, everyone. That will be the Democrat Party's normal candidate in 10 years. And that's based off history. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Joy Behar, along with the brilliant minds at The View, had Arnold Schwarzenegger on recently. And for those of you that don't know, he is an immigrant. Legal immigrant to this country. That is a distinction Democrats increasingly have a very difficult time comprehending, as was evident by her question of Arnold Schwarzenegger when it came to the issue of illegal immigration.
You are an immigrant. You're an immigrant in this country. Yeah. Did you have a visceral reaction to what they're doing, what ICE is doing, when you see the videos of it?
Well, I tell you, you said that the immigrant, I'm so proud and happy that I was embraced by the American people like that. I mean, imagine I came over here with the age of 21, with absolutely nothing. And then to create a career like that. I mean, in no other country in the world could you do that. Every single thing, if it's my bodybuilding career, if it's my acting career, becoming governor, the beautiful family that I've created, all of this is because of America.
That's true.
And so this is why I'm so happy to see firsthand that this is the greatest country in the world, and it is the land of opportunity. And I think because I'm such a proud American and a proud immigrant that came to America, I was asked to do, on July 4th, a big speech, the keynote speech at Mount Vernon, where George Washington was laid to rest, and where he lived and all that, to celebrate the 250th anniversary of America, the existence of America. And I will be doing the speech that they asked me because I'm an immigrant, and there will be 7,000 some people there, and there will be people that will be sworn in and will become citizens that day.
That's great.
So it's really a great celebration. And this is what this is all about, is to celebrate people becoming Americans and coming to America and all that. And so I just think the world of the great kind of a history that we have with immigrants in America. But the key thing also is at the same time that we got to do things legal. That is the important thing, you know. So you got to do things legal, and those people that are doing illegal things in America and that are foreigners, they are not smart. Because when you come to America, you're a guest, and you have to behave like a guest. Like when I go to someone's house and I'm a guest, then I will do everything I can, keep things clean and to make my bed and to do everything that is the right thing to do rather than committing a crime or being abusive or something like that. So that doesn't really work in this country. So I think the important thing is when you become an immigrant, to think about, okay, I go to America because I want to use America for the great opportunities that America has in education, in jobs, creating a family, all of those kind of things. Then you have to think about, okay, if I get all of those things from America, then I have to give something back. But you have a responsibility as an immigrant to give back to America and to pay back to America and to go and do something for your community for no money whatsoever. Give something back to after-school programs, Special Olympics, or whatever it is. Make this country a better place.
Well, now that doesn't sound right.
Do you think they kicked him off after that? They're like, okay, we're going to take a quick break. Thanks, Arnold.
I kept waiting for one to say, well, but you're white.
I love how the entire time they were, yeah.
Oh, they're just
and
so
then it just got quieter and quieter.
Yeah, like,
Yep.
If I just things that he said, I think, like if Trump had said, for example, when he mentioned he was talking about people who come here illegally, and that they're not doing it smart. And I think, well, now if Trump used that verbiage, Trump would say Mexicans are stupid. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things that he said there that are true, but if some Republican, Ted Cruz or Trump said it, it would be headlined. Now the left still kind of likes Arnold Schwarzenegger because he hates Trump. Again, polls have shown that a massive swing from the Democrats on the issue of immigration have gone to Donald Trump, and part of it's because of what Arnold Schwarzenegger expressed. This is what these people, and the establishment Republicans suffered with this for a while, but the Democrats definitely do. Not understanding that people who did what he did, explaining what he did, why on earth would he support people cheating the system that he abided by? He talked about coming here and being grateful and trying to be a great citizen because he wanted to be a good citizen and trying to give back to the community because he was grateful. I mean, that's another part of what the left of course, the left is not grateful for this country. And so they don't understand that for average Americans, it's not real appealing to see people so ungrateful demand to be in our country. Like, who the hell are you? I'd like to think that culturally that would be just a bare minimum expectation that, you're just a little bit grateful. Like inviting someone to come and visit you and all they do is gripe and complain about, the bedroom and the food you offer. And you're like, are you kidding me? I mean, at my expense, I'm letting you as a guest come here. But that's how they behave. And that attitude gets embraced by the left. And then to expect legal immigrants who are proud of this country and proud of the fact that they did it legally to think that they are going to be front in line to support those who cheated the system, it's just another complete and utter demonstration of the left having no clue and no concept what average people think, so, especially immigrants. And for people that somehow want to carry the mantle of caring so much and understanding the immigrant community, they constantly display. They have no clue whatsoever. At the same time, these people, and even the audience, so Arnold Schwarzenegger, a big applause line, is all based around how this is the single greatest country in the world. And they all applauded. And these are the same people, and it's the same type of audience. Obviously, it's not the exact same people, but the same type of audience that whenever somebody gets on there and talks about how we have descended into a dictatorship and that we are one of the worst countries in the world, they all applaud that. These are a bunch of brainless idiots that just wait for the applause sign to come on, and they're like, oh, okay, I guess now we'll support what this person's saying. Man. But it's a very valuable perspective from Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'm sure afterwards Joy Behar demanded to know who told me to ask him this question. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. The first official day of summer is on Friday, so it only gets hotter from here. If your AC is not running the way it should, make sure to reach out to Russell and his team over at Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. Whether you need an AC tune-up, you need a service repair, or it's finally time for an upgrade, the Foreman team has all of your HVAC needs covered. They also have a 24/7 emergency line in case something pops up after normal business hours. They're great people. I've used them quite a few times, and I actually recently upgraded my AC and my furnace. I couldn't be happier with the work that they did out at my home. So if it is time to have the Foreman team out to your home, please reach out to Russell today. Now you can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Somewhat, though, this is a question that we do get periodically about our AM signal when it'll be back up. Last I was told it was right now a situation where insurance was involved and they got to figure out all of that stuff. And I don't know how it works with a tower that suffered a great deal of destruction versus like your home or your car. I have no idea what all goes into that. And 'cause it's different than just the value of, I would imagine, something that is a physical value, like your car. Oh, well, this is what the car is valued at. This is what it'll cost, because you're talking about something that produces a signal that then creates revenue. And so I don't know how that works, but that's I wanted to answer that top of mind. Someone texted in the question, but I know a number of you have, and I try to respond to those. I'm sure I miss some of them sometimes, but short answer, I do not know. And it's, also just even getting something like that repaired. Where do you, oh, we need a new tower. Can you?
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was really messed
Radio
up.
Shacks aren't around anymore. Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, I didn't realize it until, was it you that showed me the picture? Somebody showed me the picture. I was like, oh.
Yeah,
I was
it
really
me.
surprised that I don't know, it must have been some, like, debris hit it, I guess, right?
Yeah, the
'Cause it was
entire top was
yeah.
just completely crumpled.
It had to be not because of the wind itself from one of the tornado events, but debris from within the tornado. Trump is out. He's out there speaking right now. So evidently he's having a couple new flagpoles put up in the White House lawn, and I think he's paying for it out of his own pocket. I can't wait to see what's wrong with that. Remember when they ripped him because he let a kid mow the White House lawn in his first term? That's just part of, I mentioned that the left just so negative about everything. Can you imagine? You're a kid and you have the chance to mow the lawn of the president of the White House. How excited you would be? I mean, obviously, this was a kid that at the time, I know this was first term, but I was just thinking about how the Democrats find negativity in everything. And they're like, child labor laws. Like, shut up. Shut up, you morons. But here, a kid mowing the lawn, and whatever reason you get to mow the White House lawn, you'd be so excited. And then you got these bitter old sourpuss adults on the left out there. They're like, well, now we need to investigate the child labor law. Just shut up. Bunch of old, bitter, nasty things you are. All right, so that's the end of today's show. Talk to you tomorrow, Juneteenth. Glenn Beck's coming up next. I'm Nick Reed.